What option looks better for Wi-Fi? This fancy satellite Wi-Fi in Starlink, or your simple mobile hotspot? We've been driving around the country for the past year using both options of Wi-Fi and comparing them in different environments so you don't have to, and this is what we found. The first category that we are going to be comparing these two in is price, both in their initial setup and their monthly maintenance and cost. The initial cost for a phone can vary. You can get anywhere from $200 to $300 on the cheaper end, or you can pay upwards of $1,500 if you want to get a really expensive phone. But I'll call it somewhere in the middle at a cool $500 to $800 to get a good phone that can get reliable connection and hotspot. You then have to pay for your phone coverage, which is anywhere from $40 to $80 depending on your coverage and how many lines you have on your plan. And then on top of that, you have the extra charge to cover the hotspot on your phone. Me personally, I'm using a Google Pixel 8. They cost about $700 to $800 when I bought this phone. And I'm also using Google Fi as my cell phone coverage. So I believe altogether between my cell phone coverage and the hotspot, I'm paying about $72 a month to get hotspot on my phone. For Starlink, the price options are very clear. When we first bought our satellite dish and a whole setup, it was $600. Since then, I have seen them run multiple sales where you can buy the whole dish setup for as low as $200. And I believe right now it's somewhere between $300 and $500, so that price does vary depending on the season. And then for your monthly charge for Starlink, it depends what you're using it for. If you're using it for your house, it's $120 a month, or you can get it mobile, which is what we have, where it's $165 a month. However, if you do want to save over $100 on your Starlink monthly rate, if you use the link in the description and buy your Starlink kit through that, you will get one free month. But other than this initial startup cost for the Starlink and then that monthly charge, there are very little fees associated with Starlink. There is a couple other equipments. So you have the power box and the Wi-Fi router. We've been using ours for over a year, and we have put it through some pretty tough driving and packing situations, and everything is still working completely. As you can see through our Starlink here, it actually fell off the roof on our RV and got a little busted up, but this has not impacted the Wi-Fi strength at all from Starlink. One important thing to keep in mind between both options here is that the prices do vary pretty frequently. Cell phone coverages change their plans all the time, and Starlink, as it's getting popular, is changing their plan more and more. However, they did add some extra features in that price change. The next category we're going over is going to be overall convenience and ease of use for either option. Once again, we're starting with the cell phone, and this is pretty straightforward. If you have it all set up, you simply turn on your phone and go to your hotspot setting and turn that on there. And pretty much instantly, if you have cell coverage, you will have Wi-Fi on any options that are connected to that hotspot. And if you're wondering, you can put a password on your hotspot so you don't have strangers just coming in and using your hotspot. But the key factor here is if you have coverage, which we will get to later on in the video, a cell phone is very convenient, as most of us probably carry it in our everyday lives already. Mine uses a USB-C, which is starting to become the universal charging port for all phones. So there are many options to get power and to charge it, and it holds the charge pretty fast. However, when you are using a hotspot, it will use your battery faster, so just keep that in mind. For the next option here with Starlink, convenience is a little different. As you can see, the dish is much bigger than a phone is, and you do need a constant power source, unlike the phone, which has a battery. I touched on this a little earlier. The only components for Starlink is this big dish, the power cord, and the Wi-Fi router, which take up very minimal space. And when you purchase the Starlink kit, it comes with, I believe, a 50 or 75 foot cord, and you can always purchase a larger cord or an extension if you need to. To set up your Starlink Wi-Fi, I have a couple of videos on this channel already that I'll link below, but a quick synopsis: you plug it into your power, you connect everything through that one cord, and within a minute or two, you will have Wi-Fi depending on how clear your sky is. The big negative here for the Starlink is that you do need a power source, like an outlet. I have made another video where I show how you can power Starlink with a solar battery or a power battery generator. That will also be linked in the description. I go over all the metrics and how much power it uses and how much power you will need to supply it over X amount of hours. But if you have that power source and everything is set up correctly, like I said, within a few minutes, you will have super fast Wi-Fi, and you can upload videos, you can download videos, you can stream pretty much anything you want with regular Wi-Fi. And just like the hotspot on your phone, you can also set a password for this so people are not mooching off of your Starlink Wi-Fi. The third and final category that we are going to be covering today is going to be overall coverage between the cell phone and the Starlink. Starting with the cell phone, yet again, if you have cell coverage, you will have hotspot coverage. Meaning if you're anywhere within a cell tower, mostly you'll get cell coverage, and you can then get Wi-Fi pretty much instantly. It works super well when you're in more densely populated areas, but when you're more remote or in the middle of nowhere, your cell coverage may be a little spottier and you may not get that hotspot or even cell coverage to begin with. You can connect multiple devices to your cell phone hotspot. It's pretty simple. You do it just like any other Wi-Fi option. But keep in mind, most cell phone coverage hotspots have a limit on how much data you can use every single month as priority data. And after you reach that limit, it will then get bumped to second priority, which doesn't mean you won't get Wi-Fi. It just means your speed most likely will not be as fast if you're in an area where other people have higher priority Wi-Fi. Another thing to consider with the coverage is each phone provider does have different coverages. Like I said earlier in the video, I have Google Fi, my wife has Verizon. We have completely different coverages. Sometimes she will have great service and I will have terrible service, or vice versa. So if you are going to go the route of cell phone hotspot, I would recommend, if you're with someone else, to get 2 different cell coverages. For coverage for your Starlink here, to sum it up pretty quickly, it covers pretty much anywhere. There is a list on the Starlink website where it goes over what countries have Starlink access, and if you live in one of those countries or are traveling to one of those countries and you use Starlink anywhere in that country, you should be able to get Starlink access. We have taken it from the middle of the country all the way to the west coast, all the way south, all the way north, and it has worked absolutely amazing. We've taken it on planes, road trips, anything you can think of. It's set up to the durability, and we get coverage pretty much within a minute or two. However, there are a few key factors that may influence your connection. If you do have trees or buildings or light posts or something high in the sky that is obstructing the view, your Starlink Wi-Fi will not be as good as it could be. However, you will still get Wi-Fi. We have gotten Wi-Fi coverage in really dense treed areas, but if you have a clear sky or very little obstructions, your Wi-Fi is absolutely amazing. We have actually plugged it in people's driveways when we're staying at their houses just to test the Wi-Fi, and the Starlink Wi-Fi is faster than their house Wi-Fi. Starlink can very easily connect to multiple devices all at once, and as of what I know now, there is no data use limit on Starlink Wi-Fi. Before I get into the final thoughts and opinions, I'm just going to give a quick 30-second recap of each option. Starting with cell phones, it tends to be cheaper. It works really good for recreational things like downloading movies, streaming, calling people, things like that. However, when you need a stronger strength or a more consistent strength, it isn't super great because it varies depending on your cell coverage, and there tends to be data limits. For Starlink, the price is pretty consistent every single month. It does have a lower startup cost, but the monthly cost tends to be more expensive. You do plug it in and have great Wi-Fi pretty much within a minute. However, you do have to have a power source, and if you have overhead coverage, it can disrupt the signal and you may not get as good of Wi-Fi as if you were in the middle of nowhere. Overall, comparing the two options, we actually use both very frequently, and I'll explain to you why. Starlink can technically work while you're driving, but we have not gotten it to work yet, so this isn't a viable option for us while we're driving. And cell coverage does tend to be pretty good on highways and busy places you're driving. If you think Google Maps, or if you want to call someone, typically have cell service when you're driving. So we use Hotspot when we are driving and need to work or download or upload something. Or if we're staying somewhere, we don't have power hookups, we don't want to run our generator, and we want to download a movie or listen to music, we will just turn on the hotspot here instead of plugging and setting up all of Starlink. However, when we do need to do work, both of us work a 9 to 5, and we need that really consistent strength Wi-Fi, we do plug in Starlink. We will turn on the generator. We will go somewhere out of the way so we can have power to get Starlink and get it all set up and working. I would say this is our main use of Wi-Fi throughout our whole travels. Probably 90% of the Wi-Fi we use is on Starlink. However, that 10% that we don't use, the hotspot can be really useful. I hope this video is very helpful to you overall. Don't forget, you can get a free month of Starlink if you purchase a kit using that link below. And if you have any questions or comments or concerns with either the mobile hotspot or Starlink, leave it in the comments. I do my best to answer every question and respond to all comments. And if you have other information regarding either option, let me know, and I may make a video on that, and it could just be helpful to everyone else out there.